Welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children, the podcast where I share the recordings of the bedtime stories I've told my children over the years. I'm Dan Winella, your host and storyteller. In 2008, our family traveled to Scotland for a family wedding. And so, of course, since we were going to Scotland, so was Winella. This first story was the night before our departure, so my wonderful children were full of lots of excitement and questions. I hope you enjoy the story. Winella was very excited. She had gotten out her special suitcase, which was bright pink.
Just like
and
my suitcase.
It was. And she had begun packing all her things like her mommy and daddy had told her. She and her brother and her little sister and her mommy and her daddy were all going
To Scotland.
to Scotland. That's right. Winella had never been to Scotland before.
But now her dream came true that she was going to go to Scotland.
She always thought it would be fun to go to Scotland. And now they were going to go on a very long flight. Now, Winella was used to very long flights, but usually they were on the back of a bird rather than on the inside of an airplane.
Couldn't I just take, just ride on Joey's back to Scotland?
Well, it would be a very long flight even for Joey. She could, but Joey couldn't take her and her parents and her brother and her sister.
Then we go on the airplane.
Yeah, well, they all wanted to stay together because Joe had never been to Scotland before either, and he didn't really know the way. And most of the way to Scotland is over ocean. So if Joey got tired, there would have been no place for him to land. So, Winella.
Like if he went fast, he might get tired of going speedy. And I can't even jump for 10. And he might stop and he might fall in the water and drown.
So she was packing. She opened her suitcase and she began putting in things that she thought would be useful for the trip. She put in her adventuring clothes because she was sure that this would be an adventure. And she put in her flashlight. She put in some of her favorite music to listen to. She put in some pads to draw on. And she put in stickers, yeah. She put in her harmonica, which she knew she would not be allowed to play on the plane, but thought that she might enjoy playing it.
Why was she allowed to?
Not allowed to play it on the plane because you're not allowed to do things that make a lot of noise and might bother other passengers on the plane.
She can do it in Scotland.
She could do it in Scotland, that's all right. And
That's what you're doing tomorrow. What else did
It
she
is.
put in?
well, she put in an extra pair of shoes and an extra pair of
Oh,
socks.
very important.
She put in the little robot that she puts inside her mouth to brush her teeth. And
How small is it? About this big?
it's about this big.
How big? And it crawls. It's about this. So it's about this big, and it crawls around in her mouth and brushes her teeth.
Yes.
So it has little straps on it that strap to little things that have bristles on them, and it crawls around your mouth and brushes your teeth.
Right, exactly.
So it has this lid. Those feet are bristles.
Right.
What's a bristles?
Bristles are the little plastic things that stick out on a toothbrush that you use them to scrub with.
You mean it has these little brushes?
Right. So anyway, she packed that.
Face on them.
Yep, she packed that.
And
Anyway, after she had packed all those things, she zipped up her suitcase and she put it at the end of her bed. She got to sleep and she felt like she had just fallen asleep when her eyes popped open because she heard a deep at the bottom of her bed. She opened her eyes and looked up at the ceiling and she said,
she didn't even have to.
"Hello, Theodore."
She didn't even have to open her eyes because there was only one cat that made that noise. Out of all the cats that she knew.
Well, they all made that noise, but Theodore's the one who makes it that loudly and just barges in the middle of the night. So she said, "Hello, Theodore, what can I do for you?" And Theodore said,
Good evening, Winella. I come with a message from Liberty Gibbet. He says that he has a mission for you while you're in Scotland, if you will take it. Winella said, sure, what can I do for him? And Theodore said, well, I hear that you are going to visit a castle. Winella said, yes, I think we might even visit a couple castles. Liberty Gibbet would you like you to take your camera, and if you see a throne or a crown, he'd like you to take a picture of it for him, because he's thinking about having some changes made to his own throne and his own crown, and he's looking for good ideas. Winella said, sure, that's easy, I can do that.
What color is Winella's camera?
Excellent, said Theodore. He said, I will tell Liberty Gibbet he will be most pleased. We both wish you safe travels. And Winella said, thank you. And then she closed her eyes.
Cats can't talk.
Well, not real cats, no. She closed her eyes and went back to sleep. And before she knew it, it was first thing in the morning. She had breakfast, and she helped her mommy and daddy get all the last things together that they had not gotten together previously.
She had just fallen asleep, and then she woke up and it was morning.
Yeah.
It was morning? She had just fallen asleep and then...
No, she'd fallen asleep, and it seemed like she had only been asleep for a second, because when you're asleep, it seems like you just fell asleep and you wake up and it's morning. So, she fell asleep, and she got up and had breakfast with her parents, and then she helped them all carry everything out to their boat, and they took the boat to the airport.
Boat?
Yes.
They were taking a boat to Scotland?
No, they were taking the boat to the airport.
No.
The airport.
Who was going to drive the boat back to their house?
Nobody. They were going to park it at the airport. The airport is actually in the middle of a lake, and all of the planes that land in Winella's city are float planes.
What are float planes?
Instead of wheels, they have these big pontoons on the bottom of the boat, which are floats, and so they just land on the water. So when they got at the airport, they all got their bags, and they gave their suitcases to the people to be loaded on the plane, and they all put their backpacks on.
But how did the airport stay on the water?
The airport was a big floating airport.
Oh. Okay, so... The floaties on the bottom?
If there were too many things on one side, the entire airport would fall over on every single plane there was.
Fortunately, that never happened. So, they all got on the plane and began their flight.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was created by Brandon Thompson. Your reviews and personal recommendations are the main way that new listeners find the show, so thank you for spreading the word. I'd love to hear your feedback, so feel free to get in touch via email or social media, which are listed in the show notes. Until next time, I'm Dan Wendelin, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.